Welcome, everyone. My name is Gina Yeager Buckley, and I serve the Presbyterian Church USA through the Presbyterian Mission Agency as the Mission Associate for Presbyterian Youth and Triennium. And I'm really excited and grateful to be here today, and especially grateful to welcome friends from across the world in Ukraine and in Warsaw who are going to talk with us today about what's happening in Ukraine. Our good friend Alla Soroka will be here in just a moment. You'll get to meet her. Our colleague Ellen Smith from World Mission, and Alla's translator, Daria, who will also join us today. Thank you for being here. We wanted to have a special focus that invited Presbyterian young people to offer questions and thoughts about the situation between Russia and Ukraine, and speak directly to someone who is living in the midst of this conflict, and a special someone who cares deeply about teenagers. Alla said to us the other day when we were meeting, her favorite thing in the world are teenagers. And we love that in the Office of Peacemaking and Presbyterian Youth and Triennium. So, with that, I would love to welcome my friend Carl Horton from the Peacemaking Program. Hello, Carl.
Hello, Gina.
And
It's
Carl
good
is going to pray.
Yeah, I'm going to start us off with a prayer that our colleagues in the Presbyterian Disaster Assistance Program wrote back on Ash Wednesday when this invasion began. So let's join in prayer. God of mercy, justice, and peace, our spirits are heavy. With sorrow, our souls shocked at the sudden and breathtaking violence, the invasion of Ukraine by their neighbor, Russia. We pray for lives caught in the grip of war, who hear the bombs in the night, the ominous movement of troops on the road into town, the whistle of incoming shells, for a cry from a desperate neighbor or a shout of warning, for those who are huddled in subways and basements or flee for the borders, clutching their children's hands. We pray for families separated from fathers, brothers, and sons who must remain to fight and protect their homeland. We pray for our neighbors in Eastern and Central Europe as their hearts and doors open to these refugees, that strained resources will become an abundance of hope, that fears and struggles with racism will yield to a generosity of profound welcome, that communities of faith within Ukraine will be protected from harm and sustained in their efforts to feed and shelter their neighbors, that peacemakers and protesters in Russia will be heard and their lives preserved. May we undergird our prayers with tangible resources to help. May we reach deeply, give generously, and welcome extravagantly. May we lift our voices in a strong and unified advocacy. May we all, even as we breathe in, lament, breathe out mercy, hope, and peace. And in this time when we walk the way toward death and resurrection, repent our complicity in cultures of violence and renew our efforts toward justice and peace. Amen. So let me just briefly introduce the two folks you'll be hearing. I'll say a little bit more about Alla in just a second. But Alla Soroka. So let me tell you how I know Alla. Alla is joining us today from Odessa, Ukraine. And Alla served as an international peacemaker in 2017 here in the United States with the Presbyterian Peacemaking Program. She was a guest of the Presbyterian Church. She actually visited 4 of our presbyteries, and I hope some of those folks are tuning in to hear her. She went to East Tennessee, Milwaukee Presbytery, Philadelphia Presbytery, and Newton Presbytery. And then Ellen Smith is also with us to give us some lay some groundwork for us. Ellen is a mission co-worker with the Presbyterian Church USA. She serves as our regional liaison in Eastern Europe. And in that capacity, she oversees Russia, Belarus, Ukraine, and Poland for the Presbyterian Church USA. In Russia, it's especially interesting. She has worked on a partnership program between U.S. congregations and Russian congregations. So Ellen has a lot to share with us. Welcome, Ellen, and we'll hear from Alla in just a bit.
Thank you, Carl. And today, first of all, good afternoon, and so glad that you all are with us. You've got a lot to hear from Alla, so I don't want to take as long. I want to give you some context for Ukraine. I could tell you loads about Russia, but I think what you want to listen to about today is Ukraine. This is a map of ethnic and linguistic patterns in Ukraine. It's always been a very divided country in these terms and in other terms as well. If you look at the map to the far west, is a small green sliver, and that's actually a Hungarian-speaking part of Ukraine. It borders the country. It borders Hungary to the west. The red and the pink; these are all Ukrainian, predominantly Ukrainian-speaking people and ethnic Ukrainians. And the yellow and the brown; these are ethnic Russians and Russian-speaking Ukrainians. They're all Ukrainians. It has been a very divided country, but this war has brought people together like nothing else. And it's very unified in its defense of their land against the aggressions of Russia. The next map, please. This is not a new conflict. It began in 2013 with revolution on the Maidan Square in Kiev. You see Kiev to the north of the country, north and central. It was about many things and evolved into to violence until the president left the country, fleeing to Russia. In the energy and the anger and the emotion that took place as a result of that revolution on the Maidan Square, people that came to power in that emotional time tried to ban the Russian language from Ukraine. But remember that pattern of ethno and linguistic pattern of Ukraine. And in the southwest of the country, these were Russian-speaking people, and they felt threatened. And they occupied some administrative buildings in their region. If you look at the polka dot on the southeast corner, Lugansk and Donetsk, that's the Donbass. And for the last 8 years, there has been fighting every day, and people have been dying every day in a war between Russian-supported separatists and the Ukrainian army. Next slide, please. There we go. Thank you. You see, we have partners in different parts of Ukraine. In Zaporozhye, it's hard to read. It's in the south central on the Dnieper River. We have partners that have been working with the people in the gray zone surrounding Donbass, carrying in supplies. We have most of the partners are in Kiev, including Senajijo, which is an ecumenical community that called themselves Friends of the Poor. And then before the war, they were reaching out to the homeless, to the elderly, and marginalized people. Since the war, they've been helping people to evacuate, feeding people, helping them find the safest routes to Poland, to Slovakia. They have since evacuated to Lviv, where it was safer when Kiev was being attacked. We also have partners in that green zone that I pointed out on the border of Hungary. It's the Ukrainian Reformed Church of Zakarpattia, Transcarpathia. And they also have been receiving people. As Lviv filled up with IDPs, internally displaced people, it became necessary for people to move further into Transcarpathia. And from there, people have been evacuating into Hungary. The refugees have gone to Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, and Moldova. And these are the countries that circle Ukraine to the west. Finally, we have this child here in Odessa. And Odessa is straight south of Kiev. It's on the Black Sea. It's kind of hard to read with this map. And this is where I'd like to pass it back to Gina and Carl and to Alla. You have a lot to hear right now. I look forward to listening to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. That was very, very helpful. And I think we're going to bring back Carl and Alla. And Carl is going to tell us a bit more about Alla, and then we get to actually talk with her.
Yeah. Yeah. So Alla Soroka lives in Ukraine, in the city of Odessa, and maybe you all saw on that map. Odessa is right on the Black Sea. It is just a beautiful city, a port city, and Alla has. I've never gotten to visit, but Alla has shown me pictures, and it is a beautiful place. There, she is actively engaged in peacemaking and has done that since 2005, when she started working in a restorative justice program with incarcerated or potentially incarcerated young people through the Odessa Regional Mediation Group. She is one of the first people trained in Ukraine in the international program called Alternatives to Violence that was developed by the Quakers. The program creates spaces of acceptance, freedom, and healing that allow people to listen to each other without criticism and to work through their conflicts. Alla was invited to be the coordinator and to develop the Alternatives to Violence program in Ukraine. The program has been taught to teachers, to social workers, to psychologists, and to young men in prison, which Alla says was the most powerful school in my life.
Hmm.
Alla currently works with the organization Ellen mentioned, This Child Here. It's a US and Ukrainian collaboration providing care to at-risk children and youth. In addition to a shelter in Odessa called The Way Home, Alla works with Ukrainian orphanages and prisons to try to interrupt the pipeline that many children and youth travel from orphanage to the street to the prison. This Child Here also works with at-risk youth in public schools, has a training and support program for foster parents, and is training adults to be mentors to children in Ukraine's orphanages. In 2014, when the war first came to Ukraine, This Child Here began a summer camp program for refugee families from the eastern regions of Ukraine. Alla also started going to the war-torn Donetsk region to do trainings with teachers and teenagers there. During the quarantine, they've developed an all-Ukrainian peacemaking school for teenagers in Kiev, and last year they started one in Odessa that supports families and many children. And they started a program in Odessa that supports families and with many children that are facing economic hardships. During the weeks of this invasion, so just in the last 45 days, the program has expanded to provide material support of food and medicine, not only to those large families facing economic hardship, but to all vulnerable people, including people with disabilities, the elderly, and single parents. Alla is joined today by her interpreter, Daria Yakovenko. Thank you both for your presence. We are so grateful to have you with us.
All right.
Yep.
You ready, Alla?
Yes, I'm ready. Thank you, Carl,
Okay.
for this words. And I happy be with you. I feel myself like between two words. Physically, I am in Ukraine, but mental, I'm with you. And I love teenagers very much. And for me, it's the best possibility be with your children now. And I have a lot of questions from teenagers, and I will happy give you my answers. And Dasha, my translator, help me now.
Okay. So I should say to everyone watching today that in the US, it's in a unique time. It's a lot of young people are on spring break. And so a lot of young people are traveling or with their families or on breaks. And so we went out and asked different church youth leaders for questions, asked their young people to give us questions. So we got some interesting questions back. And so I'm going to start with one of my favorites, and I loved it. All of this is from a confirmation class in South Carolina, and it's a bunch of 8th graders that are studying to become confirmed in the church. And they wanted to know simply, are you safe? Are you near fighting in danger? And how do you find safety? So I think they were really worried about you.
Я сейчас нахожусь в стране, в которой идет война. вы уже знаете об этом. Но вокруг моего города нет российских войск. И мой город периодически обстреливается ракетами. И эти обстрелы происходят в основном по инфраструктуре, не по мирным жителям. Но, однако, у нас есть люди, которые пострадали от этих обстрелов. И есть, к сожалению, жертвы среди военных.
I'm currently in a country where you know, as you know, the war is going on. Around my city, there are no Russian troops around my city, but my city is being from time to time bombed by rockets. Mainly, the targets are the infrastructural objects, not the houses, not the private houses, not the apartment buildings, not the civilian, not the civilian objects. However, we do have some people who are living near these infrastructural objects who became the victims of these bombings, and their homes were also a bit broken.
Damaged.
They're damaged. Yes, thank you. Damaged as a result, and also there have been victims among the military representatives.
Okay. Okay. And what is a day like, Alla, for you right now? What's a typical day in this time, this crazy time?
Я немножко изменила свой обычный день. Ранее у меня был такой, я могу сказать, расслабленный график. Сейчас я более дисциплинированная.
My day changed a little bit from what was like before. Of course, I was a bit relaxed previously. Now I'm much more disciplined.
Обычно утром сейчас я просыпаюсь, я обязательно начинаю день с молитвы. Раньше я могла это делать, могла не делать. Сейчас я это делаю, потому что сейчас это дает мне спокойствие и уверенность. Я обязательно занимаюсь спортом, потому что я чувствую о том, что в моем теле накапливается напряжение, и мне нужно физически заниматься спортом для того, чтобы мое тело не страдало. И только после завтрака я смотрю новости, и я не смотрю видео, я только читаю избирательно, потому что много негативной информации лишают меня сил, и мне тяжело потом что-либо делать. Поэтому я очень избирательна в информации.
I used to just brush my teeth, wake up, just brush my teeth, and then I could have a morning prayer or not. It was optional for me, but now I 100% of the time in the morning I'm praying, because this gives me a lot of energy and a lot of power, and it supports me a lot during this time. And then I also, each day I'm doing a little bit of physical exercise, because from the nervousness and from the psychological tension, the body is very stressed as well. And it's very important to take care of it, to not make it even more stressed, and to just help it relax a bit and feel just physically better, at least. And only after I have breakfast, I watch the news. And I don't read or watch a lot of news. I mainly read. I don't watch videos, because there is a lot of information going on right now, and it's stressful, of course, in many ways, and if it takes a lot of energy to process it. So if I take all the time to read through all the news, then I don't have the ability to go through my day. So I'm trying to keep this like informational hygiene as well.
So interesting that I can understand getting completely overwhelmed. So you have to sort of structure how much news you're taking in. Yeah. Okay, so this this is a long question, but I'll start with the very first part. This is from Audrey, who is a sophomore up in high school in Cleveland, Ohio, and she wants to know, what are teenagers doing in the Ukraine right now? Are they going to school? Are they required to join the military? I think this young woman had heard that some young people were joining the military, or I think they were wondering if there was a draft of some sort into the military. So first part of that question.
У нас подростки сейчас обучаются в школе, они перешли в онлайн-режим, как во время карантина. Но на улице дети, когда я нахожусь на улице, я вижу, что много ребят на спортивных площадках, они играют в футбол, волейбол, баскетбол, группы детей, они общаются. Они сидят на лавочке. Вот. У нас была объявлена мобилизация 25 февраля, но мобилизации, получается, подлежат люди от 18 до 60 лет. Подростки не могут идти в армию. Даже если они хотят, они не могут.
Our teenagers, they are going to school, but virtually. They're going to online school, so it's a practice that was of course started during coronavirus lockdown, and now it's just continuing. But when Alla's going outside, she can see that teens are outside playing football, basketball, volleyball. They're outside communicating, just talking to each other, so they're not just sitting in front of the computers all the time. And we do have the mobilization, like the like being drafted for the army, yes, since 25th of February. However, it concerns only people who are from 18 to 60 years old. So teenagers cannot get drafted, even if they wanted to. They would not be allowed.
Okay, thank you very much. Alrighty, this next one comes from a Sunday school class at a church in Tallahassee, Florida. We read that you help teenagers who are at risk. Are you able to do this work right now with what is happening?
Про подростков, да? Про подростков тяжелых, правильно я поняла, да? Ну, сейчас получается, что мы не можем делать группы детей, работать с детьми, потому что собираться в группы, потому что это сложно из-за того, что у нас в течение дня возникают воздушные тревоги, и это сигнал к тому, чтобы мы шли в бомбоубежище, то это как бы подвергать риску детей сейчас нельзя, поэтому мы не собираемся в группы сейчас, но мы можем в онлайн встречаться, и мы делали это с детьми из школы миротворчества.
Currently, we cannot be conducting the work of the conducting the work like we used to do in groups, so we cannot gather in one in one place, because from during the day there can be multiple times when we get the airborne sirens, and that's how we know that the attack is coming and we need to go to the bomb shelter. So that's why it's very risky to have a lot of kids in one place. However, we are still trying to, and have been conducting these group meetings for teens online with the kids from the Peacemaking School.
Tell us a little bit about this is not in our questions before, but I would love to hear about the Peacemaking School. What does that look like for Alla and for the young people?
Можешь немножечко рассказать про школу миротворчества, вот как бы как это для с твоей стороны, как со стороны ребят это выглядит?
Школа миротворчества – это тренинговая программа, на которой мы обучаем детей ненасильственным методом общения. Как строить отношения без применения насилия. Как общаться. Это еще немного программа про развитие soft skills. Вот. И дети, которые проходят это обучение, оно трехступенчатое, они по окончании могут проводить занятия для своих сверстников вместе со взрослыми. То есть они работают потом вместе с нами.
This is a training program that is dedicated to teaching teens how to communicate non-violently, how to communicate with their peers using non-violent approach. And this is actually a three-level program, which allows the kids who have completed this program, they can, after completing it, they can themselves join the facilitation staff of this program, and along with the adults who are leading this program, they can as well promote it and lead this training for their own peers.
Я могу сказать, что я проводила тренинги с детьми, как с своими коллегами, как софасилитаторами, и с ними гораздо интереснее работать вот в команде, чем со взрослыми. Они прекрасные фасилитаторы, они гораздо лучше фасилитируют, чем взрослые.
Alla had already had experience of co-facilitating these trainings along with teenagers, and in her opinion, they're a lot cooler facilitators than adults. They can achieve a lot more in that area.
I understand that completely. I think a lot of young people watching or who will watch this will understand that sometimes a young person speaking to another young person, it's just magnetic versus the kind of head bonking that you have to do as an adult. And it's just one of the joys of youth ministry. Okay, so the next question is from a senior in high school, Alla, and it's kind of a long question. And so I think we've got a short version of it, but I'm going to read the full question, and I'll let you tell all that, Daria. So, okay. It seems like our sympathy, Americans, is with Ukraine. I want to know what I should understand about Russians as well. Are all Russians in agreement with what Putin is doing, or are there good relationships between people in the two countries too? And the teenager said, I'm sorry if this question seems rude. It's mostly because I don't know what really started this war and why one country is good and another is not good. So I think they're having some curiosity about the conflict, maybe the history, but also sort of how Ukrainians and Russians feel about each other in this.
Ну, да, это вопрос именно о том, как бы, что нужно понимать именно о россиянах и отношении конкретно россиян к действиям Путина, и, в принципе, какие, ну, есть ли хорошие отношения, могут быть ли хорошие отношения между именно народами, и, ну, как бы, человек, который спрашивает, хочет понимать, ну, задает этот вопрос, потому что не очень понятно, из-за чего, собственно говоря, началась война, и хочется разобраться. Почему одна страна хорошая, а другая не очень.
Есть хороший вопрос. Бывает ли хороший лидер у плохих людей? И бывает ли плохой лидер у хороших людей?
There is regarding this, there is a good question that has been pretty historical for the entire history of mankind. Can like a bad nation have a good leader, and can a good nation have a bad leader?
Поэтому мы можем говорить о том, что люди, выбирая лидера, они выбирают его по каким-то критериям своим.
And when the nation is choosing their leader, they're choosing them for some specific criteria.
Я могу сказать о том, что часть людей, то, что я вижу в России, потому что у меня есть друзья в России, с которыми мы сотрудничали, у меня есть там коллеги. То, что я вижу, есть люди, которые пассивны, которые отстраняются, не хотят ничего знать. То есть они равнодушны.
And we can tell from our own experience, and Allah has friends in Russia who are, of course, aware of what is going on, but some people, they do want to just look away and to pretend like nothing is happening, and this is making them passive.
Есть люди, которые согласны с политикой Путина, они считают, что он делает все правильно, они смотрят телевидение федеральное, которое транслирует как раз все, что касается вот этих его взглядов на отношения России и Украины, и они это принимают, что это правда, и они, собственно говоря, поэтому с ним согласны.
There are also people who are supporting him mainly because they are they are watching the central federal governmental TV channels, and the all TV channels who are controlled by the government. They are, of course, channeling the ideas that Putin is trying to enforce, and that is why, of course, they are supporting him because that's these ideas are being put into such a good light by the TV, actually.
И есть часть людей, которым не нравится то, что делает правительство в России. Эти люди испытывают чувство стыда, вины. Некоторые из них писали мне и спрашивали, что им делать в этой ситуации.
There are also a lot of people who are completely against the actions of their own government, and they feel a lot of shame and a lot of guilt regarding what their country is doing to their neighbors, and they have been writing to Allah, for example, what can we do? How can we help?
Знаю одну свою коллегу, которая занималась тоже приемными родителями. Она не выдерживала, она выходила на улицу с табличкой «Нет войны», она стояла одна, совсем одна.
And Al also has a colleague who was working with foster families, and it was so overwhelming for her. She could not bear it. She would just walk outside on the streets in Russia with just all by herself with one poster that says just no to war, and she would stand there alone in a peacekeeping protest.
Но вместе с тем, то есть в России очень неоднозначная ситуация, но вместе с тем мы знаем случаи в российской армии, и я знаю, что об этом сейчас слышали все. Я понимаю, что генералы могут отдавать приказы истреблять украинский народ, но у каждого солдата у него есть выбор, делать это или не делать. И многие из них это делали. И это ужасно.
At the same time, it's there is no definitive answer and no definitive opinion among the Russian nation, up to the point where there have been many stories, and they have been pretty public, that the soldiers in their places would disobey the orders. And of course, it is an effective instrument in terms that the generals can give orders, but it all comes down to the personal choice, individual choice of each soldier, and they have been breaking their their code of conduct of their maybe their oath, in part because they are not agreeing with the orders of annihilation, of destruction of the entire nation. And this is also a horrible thing, actually.
Новое лицо России, которое мы увидели, и это очень тяжело принять. Я думаю, что всем тяжело.
It's kind of like a new face that Russia has shown to the entire world, and it is it's a dark face, and it's hard to accept to everyone.
So it's Russian soldiers who are turning against their orders, that's what Alla was saying. It's Russian soldiers who are saying we do not want to do this. Some Russian soldiers.
Yeah. Ну, имелось же в виду, да, что как бы русские солдаты сами некоторые отказываются выполнять приказания. Я имела в виду это.
А наоборот, я говорила о том, что генералы дают приказания, а солдаты их выполняют, но у них есть возможность не делать, не насиловать, не грабить, не убивать мирное население, но они это делали.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's sorry, that's the opposite.
Okay.
Like, so the orders are being given out, and even though the soldiers do have a personal choice of obeying or disobeying, they made the choice to obey the horrible orders. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Thank you so much for answering that. I know that was a good set of questions, a hard set of questions, but it's very helpful, I think, for us in the U.S. who are trying to kind of step into the shoes as much as we can, especially a young person trying to do that. Okay, the next one is from a Sunday school class of sixth graders, so mostly 12-year-olds. And they said, what do you miss the most because of what is happening around you? What about Ukrainian teenagers? What do they miss? And then maybe what would they be doing on a typical day, not a wartime day?
Мне сейчас очень не нравится, что нас держат в напряжении. Вот, и когда я слышу сирену, я не хочу уходить никуда. Я часто остаюсь в комнате и продолжаю делать то, что делала. Я общалась с детьми, которые пережили бомбежки в Николаеве. Этот город очень сильно пострадал. И я бы хотела, конечно, я видела их состояние, видела их страх. И я хочу, конечно, сейчас, чтобы видеть в глазах детей больше радости, больше интереса к жизни. Вот. И хочу обучать детей так, как это было раньше, строить отношения и делать это без насилия. И я думаю, что подростки в Украине, в общем-то, живут точно так же, как и подростки в Америке. Они любят и общаться, и заниматься спортом, и смотреть видео, болтать, влюбляться, говорить о своих симпатиях, много думать про любовь, есть чипсы. Вот. И они ищут какие-то вопросы на свои ответы, какие-то противоречия, которые у них есть внутри. Я думаю, что у всех подростков это очень похоже, у украинских и американских.
Regarding the not maybe what we miss the most, what I'll miss the most about what is happening, but something that is kind of annoying and stressful is that there is a lot. Like, she doesn't like all the tension that's been upkept. Currently, for example, we do get the airborne sirens about the attacks during the day multiple times, but Alla sometimes doesn't even want to react to it and just stays where she is in her room, doesn't move anywhere. And about the teens, she saw, she was talking to kids who came from Mykolaiv. This is one of the cities that are being attacked the most in the south of Ukraine. And there's a lot of fear in their eyes and a lot of sadness. And that is something that she wouldn't want to see in the children's eyes anymore, because in Ukraine, teenagers, they are all the same. They all want the same things. Just like in US, they just want to, hang out, just do sports, fall in love, talk about falling in love, just chill, eat some chips, and to accept that something is happening right now to their lives. And this is something that they have questions about it, and of course they're turning to adults for answers to these questions, because that would help them cope maybe a little bit better.
Giggling because I'm giggling because I recognize the word chips when Alla was universal teenage fear. Oh, that's great. Okay, this comes from, I'm not sure, I think this is from Northern California, a church in, Oregon, I'm sorry. What should I pray for? I pray for war to end, but I also want to pray for specific things. What should American teenagers pray for Ukrainian and Russian teenagers?
Во время войны есть большой риск того, что сердце станет жестким, твердым. И я думаю, я молюсь о том, чтобы сердца сохранились мягкими в людях. Потому что, несмотря на то, что с мягким сердцем жить больнее, но это сердце, которое способно любить. И лучше иметь раненое сердце, чем ожесточенное. Ну, внутри каждого человека Бог заложил его предназначение, и мне бы хотелось, чтобы каждый подросток открыл себе свой личный путь и шел по нему достойно и осознанно. И важно быть очень смелым в это время. Это очень важно быть смелым. Нужно молиться об этом.
During war times, there's a very big risk of people's hearts becoming rigid, becoming hard, and it's very important to pray for people keeping their hearts soft, and because it's harder to love, it's more painful to love when your heart is soft, but it's without it you cannot love if your heart is not soft. And it's better to have a heart that is maybe wounded at times than to have rigid and maybe a cold heart, because it's it can turn cruel sometimes even. And inside each a person, inside each teenager, God has already put in their mission, their key mission on earth. And it's very important that each teenager discovered this mission on their own. And you can do that only if you are being mindful, and if you walk through you're walking on your earthly path with a lot of dignity. And it's important to be brave at this time. So that will probably be the most important things to pray for.
Thank you very much. That's very well said. It makes me think of that there is something a broken heart can pray for more authentically. That when our hearts are soft, they're often hurting, but we can use that, and young people, I think, can really understand that. So I appreciate that, Alla. This is the last question. Say question because it's actually sort of an interesting comment by one of our young people. So I'm going to read it, and you'll see sort of a shortened version of it right here. But I'm going to read it, and then I think this young person would love to know what Alla has to say. It's Easter time here in the U.S. and also in Ukraine. But it is still a weird time in the US because of the pandemic. Not everyone feels safe. There is a lot of disagreement. There are a lot of political and physical things wrong in our country. It doesn't feel right to celebrate Easter like we usually do. But then I think Jesus died and rose again in a time of chaos too. So I guess I want to say not happy Easter to you in Ukraine, but let's all remember Easter right now, the ability for God to do the unthinkable. What do you think, Alla?
Этот вопрос, да, о том, что сейчас наступает Пасха, приближается, и это, с одной стороны, странное время праздновать ее как обычно, но в то же время Иисус умер и воскрес тоже в такое очень хаотичное, непростое время. Поэтому не хочется сказать не счастливой Пасхи, а давайте вспомним Пасху прямо сейчас, такой, какой она была, о том, что Господь может совершать немыслимые вещи. И что ты об этом думаешь?
Thank you for this question. I think есть в Экклезиаста такое слово, что всему свое время. Время миру там есть и время войне. И я думаю, что во время войны мы особенно нуждаемся в Боге. Мы вообще в нем всегда нуждаемся, но во время войны мы очень сильно нуждаемся в нем. И кажется, что когда спокойно, мы можем быть расслабленными, но когда я начала работать в тюрьме с детьми, я увидела, что даже в мирное время важно работать для того, чтобы мир был. То есть мир сам собой, он не приходит. То есть мир – это то, что нужно всегда поддерживать. Вот тогда я это поняла, и я это помню до сих пор, и, наверное, никогда не забуду. И важно еще не забывать, что у нас не слабый Бог, у нас Бог сильный, и мы принадлежим Ему, тому, кто победил смерть. Это очень важно. Это важно помнить в военное время сейчас, это очень важный момент. И это придает нам силы и смелости. Вот эта победа Его. И мы, конечно, ожидаем чего-то немысленного от Бога, и это важно ожидать от Него. И я ожидаю этого тоже. И я знаю, что мы сейчас, я сейчас общаюсь с детьми из Америки, и я знаю, что Божья семья, у нее нет границ. Хотя, да, мы живем в странах, но на самом деле у Божьей семьи нет границ. И я надеюсь очень, и я молюсь об этом, что в этой войне должна победить любовь к людям, а не любовь к власти или любовь к деньгам. Вот. И я бы пожелала бы всем детям в Америке и людям в Америке беречь свой мир в Америке. И мы также будем молиться об этом.
There is a verse in Ecclesiastes. I hope that's also in English. About that, it's time for there's time for everything. There's time for peace, and there is time for war. And it's at the time of war, we need God most of all. It's easier to forget about, not to forget about it, but be more relaxed about that, about needing Him at a time of peace. But it's also important to remember that peace, it does not come by itself. It does not happen by itself. It never does. Even there is no active war going on. Alice still saw when she worked with teenagers in prison, she saw that it's always it's always everyone's duty to keep the peace. And it's also important to remember that God is not our God is not a weak God. It's a powerful God. It's a strong God, and we all belong to Him, and we belong to the God who was who defeated death. Actually, who was the defeater of death. And remembering that and believing Him, it gives us bravery, and it makes us more powerful. And obviously, we all are expecting something, some miracle on this Easter, something unthinkable. And in how Allah sees it now is that, especially this Easter, that we are all, yes, we seem to be divided by the borders, by the country borders, by living in different parts of the world, like completely opposite parts of the world. However, if in the God's like family, in the big family of God, we're all united, and it has no borders. And in this war, what who should win? It should be love, and love for the people, for the humanity, and not love for power or money. And this is also very important in US to keep your peace and pray for it, and we will be praying for it as well.
Thank you so much, Alla and Daria, for talking with us and for responding to our Presbyterian young people across the country. I know I can feel their care and concern for you, and I can feel their curiosity and sort of deep passion about the health and wholeness of God's kingdom. So I appreciate your thoughtfulness today. And I think in just a moment, we're going to welcome Carl back, but I want to let everybody know that the Youth Ministry Office, Presbyterian Youth and Triennium, we're releasing two resources over the next couple of weeks that are quick sheets. One is talking to your young people about conflict, especially conflict in the political realm across the world, but also here. And then the second quick sheet are Christian spiritual practices to be in solidarity with our siblings in Ukraine. So ways to pray, ways to experience food and community and hospitality. So those two resources will be coming out, and those are absolutely free. And I think that you might find them helpful to use with your young people. So with that, I will say thank you, Alla and Daria, and I'll welcome Carl back.
Yeah, thank you both. This has been a great time together, and thank you, Gina, for great questioning. Dasha, your interpretation has been wonderful. Thank you to Ellen, who gave us some great information to start. It occurs to me, Alla, that you, when you were with us, you taught so much about caring for young people who are on the street and in prison. And I feel like your ministry of nonviolence, teaching a better way around conflict, teaching peace building is something that you are like the best teacher for our young people today from a place of war, helping us really discover what peace looks like and reminding us about a God of peace. And I really am so grateful for so much that you have said to us today. I think we're seeing some great pictures of your work. And I think your work continues during this wartime to remind us how important peace is, and that peace doesn't just happen, but we are the peacemakers. We have to. I love keeping our hearts soft. Thank you for that. And I love that young people, I feel like we are all one family, and that we all like to chill and have chips. So I love what you've reminded us today. So we're going to close with some time just praying for you and giving thanks to God for the relationship we have in Christ. So let's bow for just a quick word of prayer. God, we do thank you for Alla and for Dasha and for their witness in Ukraine and their witness in the U.S. with our young people and with Presbyterians, reminding us that peace calls us not to harden our hearts, but to soften them, to make room for compassion, to see the humanity in everyone. So in this wartime, we pray for peace. We pray for your peace that passes all understanding. We pray that we know that you're a strong God, and in this season of Easter, we know that you defeated death. So help us to defeat all that is of war and of death, and to celebrate life and life in its fullness. We pray that that would be restored to our siblings in Ukraine. So thank you for this time of learning, of growing, of building relationships with one another. We are all Ukrainians. It's in the name of Christ we pray. Amen. All right. Thank you all for tuning in. It's been such a privilege to have Alla Soroka and Daria with us today. The peace of Christ be with you all. Take care. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.